fans. We are back for another episode of Voices of Arda. This is a very special episode. This is our 20th episode. Callie, can I get a raise of woo? Can I get a woo?
Woo! Woo!
Yes. Yes, we're
Yeah.
doing our thing. Yes, we are on episode 20. We are doing our motherfucking thing. Let's go. So we wanted to do something special for this episode, but before we get into what that special is, let me let Callie introduce herself. Callie, who is the co-host of this wonderful podcast, introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, KaliCosplay here for our 20th episode. I am so happy and so excited. Also happy and excited to introduce our guest for this special episode. We have with us Minhas.
Hi, everybody. Yes.
What's up, Minhas?
Yay!
Yo, he is an awesome Lord of the Rings content creator.
Really awesome.
Yes, I was so happy to encounter her on TikTok, and I was like, oh wow, she's really deep. You know what I'm saying? Like her theories are very sound. Her knowledge is vast. I'm always in it to win it with creators like that, where I want to befriend them and make them part of our community. Want to join their community. Want to have back and forth discourse and conversations and agreements, disagreements. I want to pick their brain. I want them to ask me questions, and it's just a whole thing. It's a whole adventure and super fun. She is awesome. So I am so glad that we got you on the show, and we're gonna have a wonderful 20th episode with somebody who I really admire and respect your opinions and your viewpoints. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
She's actually a double threat because she not only does the lore, but she does cosplay as well. So if you're listening to this and you want to see it, go to the YouTube and check her out. She just looks amazing.
Oh, thanks, guys. Oh, you flatter me.
Both of you guys are very lovely, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Callie also looks amazing. We decided to do an elven kind of theme thing because we're both cosplayers. Yeah, it's great. If you want to find me on anything, it's Minhas Morgul on everything. So I don't really do YouTube. I want to start, but yes, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok right now, and hopefully one day YouTube, but not yet.
All right.
Amazing.
That's awesome. Yes. So Callie, what is the topic for the day? Drum roll. Brrr.
So for the episode 20, we have the topic of the 20 rings of power.
The 20 rings of power. Yes, there are 20 rings of power. There's not just one, there's not just four, there's not just 7, there's not just 9. There are 20 rings of power. When you add them all up, you get 20 rings of power.
So I will start with the ring verse, but before I start with the ring verse, I have a question for you two. What do you call a rock that is 5,280 feet long?
Callie's head.
It's a milestone.
Oh, it is a milestone. That's an American joke. We do kilometers up here.
I think that has been my favorite of the jokes so far. That is actually pretty good right there. It's a milestone. I got that one. Boom, boom. I like that. Okay, a milestone. We are okay. We're firing on all cylinders.
All right, going strong. Nice. All right, so the 20 rings, the ring verse. 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky, 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone, 9 for mortal men doomed to die, 1 for the dark lord on his dark throne. So when you add those up, they make 20. And a little fun fact here, it is said that J.R.R. Tolkien thought of the ring verse while taking a bath. I had to pull that. I don't know. I thought
that is very Hobbit-esque of him.
Very charming.
Another fun fact, in case you didn't know, Tolkien died in 1973. So there's 1 ring, 7 rings, 9 rings, and 3 rings.
That's wild.
That is
sometimes the universe really just hits.
Yeah.
So it really, really hits. So
yeah. 1973 isn't even, I guess it is long ago now, but it feels like so close.
Yeah.
He died fairly recently,
recently.
recently.
If you do the ring verse backwards, it's 1973.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that is if that's not fate or something, I don't know what is. So that is awesome. What
Yeah.
rings do you want to start with, Cal?
Well, first with an overview. So what can you guys tell me about who created the rings, when, where, the how, why of the creation of all of them?
All right.
That's very broad.
Yes.
Very
Well,
broad.
who created the rings?
Let's bounce
Yeah.
off of each other, Minhas. So take it away, and we can bounce off each other. Let's go.
Yeah, Celebrimbor made some of these rings. The Alvin Smith, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, the Elvin Smith of Aragion. He is the grandson of Feanor.
Who is
and
also a
he-
great smith.
he's a
Very
great
famous
leader
for
of
creating,
Aragion.
yeah,
Mhm.
for creating the Cimmerals. Yeah, he's very talented. So I guess it is a very familial, and Lord of the Rings is very familial as well. Everything everyone does is based off of their ancestries. So it would make sense that Celebrimbor is the one who was the one who created the rings. And as we know, the three rings were the only ones who were uncorrupted by Sauron. And they were kept hidden from him as well. But yes, if you want to continue with
Yeah, so
9 and the dwarves, yeah.
within in Aragion, which is a Noldorian settlement within Middle Earth. It was near Khazad-dûm. It was right next to Khazad-dûm, in fact. Men call it Holland. So if you read the Lord of the Rings, it's referred to as Holland now, even though Aragion is gone, it's wiped off the map. This is where Celebrimbor's settlement was with the Noldorian elves. They had they were like jewelsmiths and great craftsmen, and they had basically a club of great craftsmen known as the Gwaithir Dain, and Celebrimbor was the head of this. He was the head of that city, and they were like immensely skilled. They said their skill was unmatched since the time of Feanor. Like they no one could touch their skill, and they mined great jewels and everything. And unfortunately for them, they were so eager to create and to do such great works that they were infiltrated by someone known as Anatar, the gift giver, who we now know is Sauron in disguise. So Sauron does what Sauron does, and as Anatar, he gave them great knowledge and increased their skill and taught them how to make rings. So initially, they were making what's known as the lesser rings, whereas these rings were just essays in the craft, as it says, where they just might turn you invisible, or they're just little magic rings, and these aren't even a part of the 20. So there's actually more rings than the 20, but the rings of power are the ones we are dealing with, and there are 20 rings of power. So these rings were the craft to make the rings was taught to Celebrimbor and the Gwaithir Dain by Sauron. So he taught them how to make these rings. And with his craft and knowledge he gave them, they created the 9 and the 7, which at this time really was just the 16. There was no, they weren't intended for men. They weren't intended for men, and they weren't intended for dwarves. They were intended only for the elves. Sauron wanted to corrupt the elves because they were the most powerful people in Middle Earth, and he wanted to use them. He wanted them under his thumb, under his sway. So he taught them how to make these rings, and they did exactly that. And then Celebrimbor, who is the greatest of all these craftsmen, took it upon himself to make the 3. So now we add 3 to 16, that is 19 rings. And he made the 3, and they were untouched by Sauron. He did not know about them. He was not aware of them. And these 3 were greater than the other 16. Celebrimbor put all his skill, but still the knowledge in the craft that Sauron had taught him to make the rings was still used. So that's key. They were still used. That was key. And so now we have 19 rings of power, all for the elves, and all the elves. The 19 rings were spread out amongst the elves. The 3 Celebrimbor had, and he gave, let's see if you got this. He gave 2 to Gil-galad and 1 to Galadriel.
Oh yeah, no, Gil-galad. Yeah, Gandalf gets it later. He's gifted it. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. And then when they put on the other rings, like the ones that originally ended up being given to men and dwarves, the elves, when they put them on, they gained knowledge that this was Sauron. Like that's how they gained the knowledge that Sauron had corrupted the rings, and that pissed Sauron off. He was like, no. Yeah, and that's how like the transition came of him giving them to men and dwarves, and that's how they got access to the rings.
Exactly. He crafted the one ring in Mount Doom, and when he put it on his finger and said the verse, the elves became aware of him, and because the rings are connected through the craft of their making, which he didn't realize that they were going to be aware of him. And the elves took their fingers off, knowing that they were not their fingers, their rings off, knowing that they were deceived. And this angered Sauron immensely because his plan didn't work how he wanted it to work. So he went to war with the Rhaegar, and he put so much of his own strength into the ring, the one ring, because it needed to be something with such great potency. It needed to be able to control all the other rings. And it is said that even the three would still be under control of the one. That's the potency of the one. The one, he can understand the hearts and minds of those that had the rings on, and he can control them. He can control their very will and everything they did, and make or unmake anything they did. So this ring was crazy. Not to let alone all the other things that the ring could do: turn you invisible, stop you from aging. You know, the strength according to the statue of the bearer is what it says. Sauron's statue is the greatest in Middle Earth. So, you know what I'm saying, he could do so many things with this ring. And he went to war with a Rhaegar, and because he said to Celebrimbor, hey, you wouldn't have been able to make these rings without my knowledge, without my crafts. So I want my rings back. Give me my rings back. And he tortured Celebrimbor. Spoiler alert. He takes back 16 of the rings. The 3 were hidden and put into the hands of the wise, Galadriel and Gil-galad. And Gil-galad ends up giving one of the 2 rings to Círdan. So now Círdan, Gil-galad, and Galadriel have the 3 rings, but they can't wear them. And they were hidden. And Sauron ends up killing Celebrimbor and is going to full-on war and destroys a Rhaegar. Now, this is when he goes and redistributes the rings, and this is where the ring verse comes from, as far as the 7 for the dwarf lords and 9 for the men, because he redistributes the 16 rings. He gives 9 to men who were easy to corrupt, and they were easiest to fall under his sway, and he gave 7 to the dwarf lords. And what about the dwarves is special, and why aren't there any dwarven ring wraiths, Minhas?
Well, I think when it comes to the rings is they amplify what your desires are, right? So with the dwarves, their biggest desire was for gold, right? And for mining and whatnot. And the rings amplify that. With men, it was their desire to not die. So ring wraiths, they originated from the stretched out life, which your life isn't supposed to be that long if you're a man, right? So it's not that they prolonged their life. They took the life that they had and literally stretched it. And that comes from that famous line where Bilbo's like butter spread over too much bread. That's how the ring wraiths came. Their life was so extended, they became these beings that were nothing. But whereas for the dwarves, they loved gold, and the rings enhanced their love for gold, which, you know, eventually led to their demise as well, because they were eaten by dragons and whatnot. And a lot of the dwarven rings just got lost in that process.
Yeah, the dwarven rings, especially, just also didn't work on the dwarves because of their making by Aule. So the dwarves were made extremely tough by Aule. He knew when he made them that they would come in the time of Morgoth. So he made them extremely stubborn and hard like stone, and they're so selfish and stubborn, they can't be controlled. So they can't be mind controlled, and they can't be turned into race. So those things that Sauron intended won't work on them. But a vicious side effect was their lust for gold, and it increased their lust for gold immensely, and then it ended up to their downfall, not only with the dragons but also with the Balrog. So it's quite a side effect. So that's why there aren't any dwarven ring wraiths, but there are 7 and 9, and then the 3 were never recovered by Sauron, and we know the bearers. Kali, who are the bearers of the 3? And which rings do they possess?
All right, so we're going to get into the elven rings now in detail.
Let's get into the elven rings.
Let's get into the elven rings. Okay, so first we have Nenya. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, lovely.
It's hard to see with the glare.
This
but
is the
it's a little
superior
bit there.
Nenya. Just as a side, in Rings of Power, I did not like their Nenya. That was my one gripe with
I
that.
didn't really like the 3 that they made in Rings of Power.
They were very clunky looking.
Yeah, I'm like, this is Elven craft. It doesn't look like it.
I applaud the effort.
Yeah, but yes, this is a very beautiful Nenya.
Yeah, the one from the trilogy is beautiful. So it's also known as the Ring of Adamant and the Ring of Water. It is made of mithril and set with a white stone of adamant, and was only ever worn by Galadriel. The power of Nenya also strengthened and beautified the realm of Lothlorien.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then we have Nadia, which I also have. Nadia is the Ring of Fire and the Red Ring. Hey, it's showing up a little bit better here. It's gold and set with a ruby. It was originally worn by Círdan, who gave it to Gandalf. And it is described as having the power to inspire others to resist tyranny, as well as hiding the wielder from remote observation, except unless you are wielding the one, and gives resistance to the weariness of time. And then the third elven ring we have here is Vilya, the Ring of Sapphire, the Blue Ring, or the Ring of Air, also known as the mightiest of the 3. It's a ring set with a sapphire stone. It was originally worn by Gil-galad, but given to Elrond. And like the other 2 rings, had the power to prevent decay through the effect of time and to postpone the weariness of the world.
Those are all very, very important things. I think it's very telling that which ring went to who, especially with Gandalf ending up having the Ring of Fire, because he is the inspiration throughout time, right? He's always been the character that brings hope. He's the epitome of hope, and Galadriel is the epitome of perseverance. So it makes sense that those are the rings that both of them got.
Yeah, for Gandalf to get the ring that inspires and like exudes courage. Círdan knew what he was doing. He saw those things in Gandalf when he arrived in Middle Earth, and he said, "You know what? To have the wherewithal to give the ring up, something of such importance, and to have the foresight and the insight to see, hey, this being wants to do right and is going to do right." Legendary. Yes. We're lucky that Gandalf ended up with that ring. Directly counters the Witch King's kind of ability to inspire fear and instill fear throughout wherever he goes around. So those 2 are always destined to kind of bump into each other. So that's one of the awesome things there.
So we know the most really about the 3 elven rings. Do either of you have a favorite?
Of the 3 elven?
Yeah.
Mine is actually the sapphire one. I mean, not based off of its look. Obviously, Nenya is the most beautiful. I think it's because it's inspired by feminine qualities, where the other 2 are inspired by masculine qualities. It's not inherently stated, but you can tell by the way the rings are made that was the intent around them. So Nenya, on the surface, looks more beautiful. It's supposed to represent Galadriel and her beauty as well, and her power within that. But the Ring of Sapphire, there is something to be said, especially if you're Elven, the weariness of life. You know, it's something that we as mortals can't really comprehend totally, because at least we can understand, like, we can have an end. We can be like, that's it, right? Like, we're dead now. We don't have to deal with this anymore. But if you look at Elrond as a perfect example, his life is so sad, and it just keeps, his stress just keeps adding on and adding on. And it's just like the beauty of the resistance of that, especially being associated with an element that is so soft. Right? So like the thing about us in this real world, the older we get, you'll find the harder we get. Our souls harden, our exteriors harden, and we become, like, I feel sadder over time. And I think that's why it's important to have that kind of resistance and have that kindness within a ring. and bring it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Of course, mine is the red ring, the fire ring. Like I just discussed, I talked about just it inspiring and driving away the imaginations of fear. It's just Gandalf, and people didn't even realize that wherever he went, everybody was like more cheerful. Everybody was willing to fight. You know, when he said with a stern voice, you know, hey, don't fear anything. Like it's time to fight. Like even when he went to the Gondor, is Rohan gonna come? Hey, y'all need to get it together. Don't worry about it. They're gonna come. They're gonna come. But y'all worry about what y'all got to do. Like it's like Mithrindir. You know what I'm saying? The only time I think that wasn't the case was when he went to Rohan, but that's because other sorcery was at play, countering what he was doing. But then when he came back as the White Wizard, he put forth more power and completely dispelled all of that. So I think the Red Ring is extremely important, and it's the focal point of what the Astari were trying to do, because they were to inspire as opposed to directly counter. And that's what Gandalf, he played his role exactly how he was supposed to, unlike the other wizards, as far as we know.
Yeah, and that's why Gandalf is considered one of the most, I'm sorry if my internet's a bit shaky. Gandalf is considered, the most successful of the 5 wizards that came. All of the other wizards have been stated to have failed their purpose, right? And Gandalf didn't even want to come. He was the most resistant of the 5 to come to Middle Earth. But I think that's why he was, I guess this is a slightly off topic to the rings, but that's why he was so perfect for the role of what needed to be done. He wasn't there out of desire to be there or power. Like Saruman got corrupted by the want for power as well. He was there to do his job, and he did it.
Yeah. So as far as Vilya, now that ring is interesting. It's like preservation, right? Like Elrond is the keeper of all things. He could have been the king if he wanted to be, but he said, I want to be like the Lord Master, the keeper of the peoples. All different peoples are welcome where he's at. It's a safe haven. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a stronghold, a safe haven. Records are kept there. Knowledge is kept there. Like he didn't even take the role. He could have been the king of the Noldor. He could have been the king of the Sindar if he wanted to. He's literally in both lines, in line for the throne, like literally on both lines. So I think that is really, a telltale sign that he was meant to get that ring eventually, even though it was given to Gil-galad. Gil-galad knew he placed it in the right hands after his passing. You know what I'm saying? Like Elrond is that guy, and that they, rest for the weary. Everything gets set up, even in the Last Alliance. They go to Rivendell for mad long when they're setting up for and preparing to go on march on Mordor. The whole reason the ring gets to Mount Doom in the first place is because they set up a foundation and base and decided what to do in Rivendell. They even get to the mountain in the first place in The Hobbit because they get help from Elrond, who has the knowledge and who can and can identify these old ancient swords, and he gives them, the verse that's on the map, and he lets them know, hey, this is what this says. It's a place, it's a stronghold, it's a refuge, and that's what that ring does. It preserves life, time, information, all of that stuff. And it's just like a barrier, even when the Nine try to cross the river, I'm sure the ring had a part to play in him raising the river against the Nine. So it's awesome power, awesome.
Yeah, the 3 rings are, again, because we know most about them, are really a testament to what the power of the rings can actually do. Because if you're going into Lord of the Rings with, let's say, zero understanding of what this world is and what's going on, and you just see this tiny ring, how is this the most powerful thing in the world? Like, how is this taking over everything, corrupting all men, and causing wars and generation of wars? It's difficult to kind of comprehend that. When you say this is the most powerful ring, why is it so powerful? Well, let's look at these other rings that were created and what they are doing. And this one ring controls all of that as well. Yeah. So
even if you destroy the one ring, it undoes what the three have done.
Yes, which is why they needed to leave Middle Earth, because all of their power has faded and they'll just wane into the endlessness of time. Yeah.
So, like,
it sounds terrible.
It is kind of terrible.
Into the endlessness of time. That's a terrible fate.
The fate of the elves is always interesting because that is what it is. They do end up fading into the endlessness of time, and the envy of men can't understand that. Like, men and elves envy each other through both of the things that they don't have. Men envy their immortality, and elves envy their mortality. It's a constant cycle, and then we see the people of Numenor are the best example of that envy.
Exactly. So that's the three. Interesting enough, I really love the 9. I really love the 9, and it's very simplistic, very basic, easy to understand what these rings do. But it's who has them that makes them more interesting. So sorcerers, warriors, and kings of old were given these rings, and the men aren't as powerful as the elves, so they became slaves to their will. They're the most easily corrupted because their hearts are desire thing. They wanted wealth, they wanted power, and the easiest way to get that was these rings, which helped them acquire information. They could go invisible and attain information that could make them rise in power. You know what I'm saying? It augmented, if somebody was already a sorcerer, it augmented their strength. The Witch King of Angmar, you know what I'm saying? Like, things like that. Like, so they rose in power. And then most often, you know what I'm saying, they would go in the shadow realm and use the rings to, go invisible and retrieve information. But more often than not, they would just see the delusions and phantoms of Sauron. And that drove them even deeper into his grasp. And it just was like going down a rabbit hole, and they could not find their way out. And eventually it was too late, and their life just was stretched, and they were trapped. And that even trapped so much to where they don't even have the 9 anymore. Sauron took the 9 back, and they are 100% completely under his will, his complete will and dominance. They don't even need to be wearing the rings.
Yeah, it's definitely, I always find in Lord of the Rings, one of the most interesting species is men, ironically, because even though we have these fantastical beings that don't exist in this world, we can really understand our world better by looking at the race of men in this world as well, because they aren't inherently evil. They are just these beings that are trying to survive, and some are worse than others. That's why I always feel like people give Isildur a very hard time, and Boromir as well. I'm always like, guys, like, it's okay, it's difficult. Like, all of us have less will than what Isildur or Boromir have. They at the heart of their hearts wanted what was best for their people, and still it caused corruption, because so you can even have good intent with the rings and still get corrupted. When it comes to the rings. And then that is also extended to the 9 as well, where even though they wanted power and everything, the corruption is easy because their time here is so limited, and they need to survive. It's grasped in this reality of this world and plane is all they have, and they don't have time to muck about.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. 100% and 100% agreement. And it brings me back to something that was said in the book. Gandalf would have fallen the hardest because he had the most pure intentions of wanting to save Middle Earth. So if he would have taken the ring and then used it to do that, he would have been corrupted because he desired so good, wanting so much to do good. His desire was so great to do good, he would have fallen the hardest. And his power is terrible. You know what I'm saying? Already, he has a great power within him. So that corruption would have even happened even worse. You know what I'm saying? And he would have been a second rising of a Dark Lord. Same thing with Galadriel. She would have been a Dark Queen. You know, their intentions are very good. But Boromir, just like you said, his intentions 100% noble and good, but he just did not understand that he can't use this ring to do it. But his intentions were good. He couldn't see another way. and
Yes.
rightfully so. Like, he does not know what's going on in that sense of the information that Aragorn and Gandalf have. He does not know the full extent of what this ring is capable of, and he just wants a way. He sees a way to protect and stop all this madness that's happening, and he's constantly fighting Mordor. Mordor
Yes.
and Gondor are next to each other. They are
First line
neighbors.
of
They're not.
defense. Yeah.
Like, he's been at it.
Yeah.
He's been at it. So it's unfair when people go against Boromir. And we talk about Isildur. Isildur lost everything. He lost his home. He lost his entire people, a race of people. All of them are dead. He lost his father. He lost his brother. He said, man, and now, you know what I'm saying, this thing, this is a werewolf for my brother, my father. Like, I've given everything. He was almost killed just trying to save the white tree of Gondor. And he did that twice. Like, you know what I'm saying? He saved the white tree of Numenor, then he saved one of the trees in Minas Ithil, which was a fruit of the tree.
Yes. Yeah, I think people really, and I think maybe Peter Jackson's movie kind of helped erase a little bit of that understanding, because, you know, you only have so much time, but people really don't miss the point of these people are suffering. Like, if you look at Middle Earth, these people are suffering. They have little resources. Everyone's killing each other. You know, the dragons eventually died out, but there's dragons, there's sorcerers, there's orcs. You're getting attacked from all sides, right? So even if you are like, and these are people in power, like, so even if you're just like an average person, you're dying left, right, and center. And when you're talking about true to the corruption of the ring, it does show your desire. So even the hobbits, so and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm remembering incorrectly, even Sam, when he got hold of the ring, saw that he could make Mordor into a garden, right? So even like his desires are coming out, right? The ring amplifies that. And even that comes from a place of good, but it's still something that can be corrupted so easily.
Yeah. So those are the interesting facts about the 9 rings, and who they were given to, because it's very important of the race that got those rings, and it's just like they were the easiest to fall, and fall they did. Now back to the dwarves in the 7. Just like he said, the dwarves' lust for gold was increased. They cannot be turned into shadows, so we don't have to worry about dwarf rapes. They can't be controlled by Sauron. We don't have to worry about that. But what happened? Literally, we take Erebor as a prime example of what happens when that gold lust happens. And it is said that at the center of each of the 7 dwarf hordes was a ring of power. So they acquired great wealth from what the rings could do, and they created these great hordes, and they went to war with the dragons. The dwarves and the dragons had a war, and 4 of the rings of power were devoured by dragonfire, and then 3 were taken back by Sauron. He has the 3 dwarven rings. Perfect example of that is Thrain. So Thor's son Thrain, Thorin's father Thrain, literally lost the ring to Sauron when he was captured in Dol Guldur. And now Sauron has the 3, and in the Fellowship of the Ring, he tries to give the 3 back to the dwarves, and he promises them that, you know, they'll be in charge of Erebor, and they'll get Moria back, and all this, and it's like, damn, we're gonna get Moria back? Wow, like, that's very enticing. They want nothing more than to get their ancestral home of Khazad-dûm back. So he's offering this, but luckily for them, they had the wherewithal to understand that he's always trying to trick them, and they weren't going to let him trick them again. This is how the dwarves ended up coming to the Council of Elrond. That's why they were there, to talk about the one of the Nazgûl coming to offer try to get information about the one, and offered the 3, you know, for that information. So, man, it would have just been an unending cycle with the dwarves if they had accepted the 3.
Yeah.
But thank God for their makeup with Owling. Thank God that they were created as tough as they were. Even though the dragons were a problem, at least the rings got destroyed, and we don't have to worry about them. Those rings could have been given to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, and it's always a true testament to the stubbornness of dwarves. Dwarves, it's always seen as a negative thing. Even when you're watching The Hobbit and you see
yeah.
Thorin go, and everyone's like, "Thorin, come on, get it together." But it's instances like this, it's a positive thing, right? Again, it feels like it's more nuanced than what the movies or anything kind of gives it credit for. And it's a great credit toward the dwarves to enter an elven kingdom who, after there's so much animosity, and to put that aside, to go to the greater good and be like, for the betterment of all of us, for my people, for the race of men, and even for the race of elves, we have to put this aside, go into Rivendell and figure out what's going on and provide the information that we have to everyone else as well.
Yeah. And their admiration for things, the admiration for the beauty of the earth and the things within it. And it can be looked at with so much like a different light, because when Gimli goes to the glittering caves, you see it, and he's like really cares about each and every pebble, stone, gem in there. He's like, this is the most beautiful thing I've seen. This is amazing. Like we would nurture these. We would take care of this place. We would delve it deeper and make it vast, and it would be awesome. Like we would not just mine it and take it for no reason. And that being perverted by the ring is bittersweet. That lust and that desire, it was originally love for the creation and them loving things that were created by their master Mahal, as they say.
Yes. And I guess it might be a slightly off topic, but yeah, let's just like focus on the rings. Yeah, it is kind of beautiful, and the way that Gimli also falls in love with Galadriel and her hair stems from that beauty as well.
Yeah. No, you can talk about it.
It just because like I want to stay on focus, but yeah, it is all from a base of love, right? Every single one, the men, the dwarves, the elves, all come from a base of love. That led to corruption. I think that's why it's great in Rings of Power, where they, in two senses. One, they mentioned Galadriel, the first line, nothing is evil in the beginning. Yeah. And the second thing is we see the dwarves in their prime, and you see their love, and you see the way they care toward their ceremonies, their dead. And it's something that in Lord of the Rings, we have already passed that point. They've been destroyed, they've been hardened, even in The Hobbit. So it's great to see them in their prime and to finally appreciate their love for the world and the earth and the situation that they're in.
Yes, man. So let's get to the big boy, the one ring to rule them all. Sauron's greatest creation, the one ring of power. It is unadorned. It is gold or something like gold, but it is unbreakable. It can't be destroyed by anything other than the fires of Mount Doom of Orodruin, where it was created. Sauron put much of his strength into this ring, just like I said, to be able to control the other rings. It was a huge gambit to do this, but I think it paid off in many ways. He did conquer the earth, and everybody had to join together. Like they all had to come together because it was about to be over. I think it is by extreme luck that extreme luck on both instances where they defeated him is by the skin of their teeth. Like he is no joke. The foundations of Barad-dûr was made with the One Ring. And so when the One Ring was lost and not destroyed, the foundations of Barad-dûr couldn't be destroyed. And that's how it was rebuilt in the Third Age, because they had something to build from. Sauron created with that. Sauron's stature was crazy. So his will is in that ring, and he has a stronger will than anyone in Middle-earth. He is the most powerful being in Middle-earth, and none can withstand his gaze almost. Like it's very rare that someone can withstand the eye of Sauron. So all of that mounting pressure, will, evil, all of that is combined within the ring, and it makes it something so potent. It is terrifying.
It is terrifying, especially since he put so much of himself into it. Like the ring has a mind of its own now. So literally, Sauron is split into two at this point. He is himself, whatever is left, and then the ring. And that's why when Sauron is killed, he's not, because the ring is still alive. And it's almost kind of funny when or cartoonish when he's with the Isildur and he's like, nah, I don't want to be here anymore. And then he kind of like hops around from people to people. And then he ends up with Bilbo and he's like, gosh darn it. Because Sauron doesn't really know what hobbits are at that point. And he's like, what am I doing here? What's happening? It's like cartoonishly hilarious for somebody so powerful to end up in like the hands of a hobbit, and they just like to drink and party and eat.
Yeah, that's hilarious, man.
Yeah.
The ring is always trying to get back to the hand of its master.
Yeah.
So we see the instances where it actually betrays any of the people that have the ring. It betrayed Isildur, it slipped off his finger when he was swimming in the Anduin trying to get away from the orcs.
Yes.
It betrayed Gollum. It slipped off his finger when he was strangling the orc. He slipped right off his finger. It tried to slip off Bilbo's finger, but Bilbo got wise to it and put it on a chain, which he told Frodo to do. And that's how Frodo carried it around. So they got hip to it very wisely and stopped it from doing that. But the chain, it would get heavy. The closer they got to Mordor, it would get heavy. It became a great burden. It was just like, oh my goodness, it's like the will and the weight of all of that just would just hang their head. It was crazy. It's spooky how strong this one ring is. And the gambit that Sauron, just if you can't think of the power of that ring, think of the gambit that Sauron does to get it back. Like he completely diverts his entire attention away from war to get the ring. His indispensable soldiers, his most indispensable henchmen, the 9, he sends them to go get the ring. He needs them for this war. Literally, the Black Captain, the Lord of the Nazgul, the Witch King of Angmar, leads his army, and he said, "I need to send you on this errand to get this ring back." Yeah, and it's a whole ordeal, which shows you how powerful it is and how much he needs that ring. If he gets that ring, it is over. There is nothing they can do. It's over. Game over.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It is a testament to the power of the ring when you think about the fact that he sent the Witch King of Angmar, a Witch King, right? Like not just some guy, like not just like it's like his most pretty much number one after him at this point.
Yeah.
To go, send out and get it. And Saruman.
Don't tell the mouth of Sauron that.
I about the door.
Yeah. He's like, excuse me?
I thought it was me.
But even Saruman, who we know gets corrupted by Sauron, all his focus is into creating an army to retrieve the ring. Like the Uruk-hai were created so that they can retrieve it from the hobbits, and he literally had to breed a new breed of orcs for this purpose.
Yeah, he wanted to definitely rival Sauron, and he was searching for the ring, and this created so many different opportunities and situations that we didn't even realize were happening until you read later in other stories in the Silmarillion and things. You find out Sauron had been searching for this ring. He had been holding up the White Council. He had been doing all this crazy stuff. He almost got the ring. He retrieved many things that were Isildur's from the River Anduin, and that we discover later in a locked tower in locked room in Orthanc. So he was close to retrieving the ring. So this ring's power was vast. You know what I'm saying? It gave whoever possessed it, and if they had even the inkling to wield it, they became great in stature for even just a second. Frodo was raised up on Gollum when he had the ring in his hand, and Gollum was afraid. And Frodo can't even wield the ring like that. Galadriel, literally just looking at the ring, burst into a huge monologue about becoming a Dark Queen, and she had to really fight herself from the temptation. And Boromir literally tried to off Frodo to get this ring. It drove him mad, and he had to ultimately get it, redeem himself by giving his life to save the hobbits. This ring is no joke, man.
Yeah.
So the One Ring actually has a few different, it's referred to by a few different names. Do we know some of them?
Isildur's Bane.
Yes, that is one of them.
Okay.
I actually, I don't have knowledge on this. This is the one place I'm blanking.
That's okay. It's hard when you're put on the spot too.
Yeah.
The ruling ring.
Yep.
Yes. Great Ring of Power. Apparently that's different from the Ring of Power. And it has the name in Black speech. Can we hazard a guess? Do we know the Ashnags Darbatuluk?
I don't know that.
Ashnags Gimbatul, Ashnags Trakatuluk, Akbuzumishi Krimpatul.
Oh yeah,
So-
that would be the one ring.
So
Yeah.
that's in Black speech. So Ashnaz is the Black speech word for one ring.
There you go.
Fascinating.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to
So
take a second to talk about like these lesser rings, because we know we have the 20 rings of power, but the fact that these lesser rings exist in this world makes it understandably difficult for Gandalf to understand the threat of the ring that Bilbo had.
Yeah.
Because I know like there's a big conversation around why didn't Gandalf stop Bilbo all those years ago when he found out he had the ring? Because in the books, Gandalf even knows that Bilbo has a ring at the party. He knows the plan, whereas in the movies, he doesn't. And it's because these lesser rings exist that just aren't really a ring of power. They just have abilities that can make you invisible and whatnot. So Gandalf wasn't really privy to the knowledge that this was a one ring, even though it's so powerful. And it's literally because of the existence of these lesser rings.
Yeah. That and also the knowledge that he has from Saruman. The ring went into the Anduin, and he thought it was gone, and he was like, no, there's no way that, how would he even, the great chapter, Shadow of the Past, and also the Council of Elrond. There's a great many years, 2,500 years of re-putting where this ring has gone, where it was at. It's a huge span of time, and they have to literally account for all of these years and where it's been, who's at it, where, like, they have to fit this together. It's not just like, oh, that's the one ring. Like, it's not that simple. And then all these lesser rings, he's like, oh, that could be harmless. As long as he doesn't use it too much, it's probably just like a regular magic ring. There's no way this is the one.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And then he comes to find out it is, and we're off to the races, So these rings of power are second only to the Silmarils as far as their people, their power and their people's lust for them, and rightfully so. So this was a great topic for our 20th episode, to give you the 20 rings of power and why they're called the rings of power, why they're so powerful, why they're so wanted, and why they could be so destructive, but at the same time, why they could be so, they could preserve and, create and just magnify. They're awesome. They magnify courage. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's amazing what Gandalf does with his ring. And him finding the courage in himself to fight the Balrog on the bridge. I'm the wielder of the flame of Arda. Like, it's amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Last little question about the One Ring. So in order, can we name who touched it?
Okay, so first is Sauron.
Yes. I guess Isildur's next. And then Gollum, Draegal, Draegal, and then Smeagol, and then Bilbo, and then Frodo, and then Sam, and then Frodo again, and then Smeagol again.
We're missing someone in between the Shire and Rivendell.
Oh, Tom Bombadil.
Yeah.
Oh yes, Tom Bombadil. Yes.
Yeah.
Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, he's just like, whoop, haha.
We're not going to get into that enigma of a person, of that being. Oh yes, the ring has no control over him, but he also has no control over the ring. So let's be clear. It is stated both ways for all you Tom Bombadiliacs over there.
Okay, he'll get his own episode then.
Yes. That actually is that.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait for that. So
we'll get someone on who really loves it.
Those are the rings of power. Um, Callie has them. She's freaking awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, of course, the one is the one. It's Sauron has it. That's my guy. I love the 9. I love the 3. The Dwarven rings, like we don't even really get the grasp of what they really can do like that because of the dwarf side effect that they got going on. But they all have their fates end up shaping what happens in Middle Earth. Like these rings are very very much what happens in the entire story of Lord of the Rings. Like the 9 are feared throughout the whole second and third age, since their inception, and the 7, their vast wells caught up, and then dragons taking them over. These changes entire eco-social standings within things like Dale, and when Dale got destroyed is because of the dragon, and now there's Lake Town, and there's bartering between. All of this happened because of Thror's golden hoard that he had. And so Moria, the trade that happened there, that got stopped because of the dwarves had to move. All this because of the dwarven rings. They cause situations to happen and long-lasting effects. And then the one, of course, entire war was fought over the one. Of course, or entire war fought over all 20 rings of power. But at the end, the war of the ring was over the one, and it is just crazy. So to think, about how many effects these rings have had. So little things, but such great effects. So. Thank you so much, Minhas. I really appreciate you coming on, talking with us, displaying your knowledge, cosplaying. Both of you ladies look very lovely. I do have some questions for you before we get out of here.
All right.
So, in the entire Legendarium, if you could marry anyone in the entire Legendarium, no matter what time
I already know.
Yeah, I know. Everyone knows. Everyone knows I'd marry Thranduil. Thranduil is my #1 husband for life.
Gwendolyn?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm Legolas's mommy, guys.
Who would you get to protect you?
Protect me.
Yes.
That's actually a good one. Who would I get to protect me? So I can choose evil people too.
Evil people too.
Yeah, I think I would get Morgoth to protect me.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotta go all the way up. I mean, I guess like second to God himself, like Iluvatar.
That's great.
Yeah.
And who would you want to fight?
Who would I want to fight?
Yes.
Probably just miscellaneous orc.
Miscellaneous orc. That is a new one.
That is a new one. I like that.
Because I got Morgoth on my side. I feel like I can win this battle pretty easily.
All right. Hey.
Yeah.
That is it. Yeah. So yeah, that is episode 20 of Voices of Arda. We want to thank Minhas so much for coming out and just sharing her passion for the writings of Tolkien and her passion for the rings, and Callie, your passion for the rings, and thank you for possessing the rings and wielding them with such great force and wonderment. Thank you so much. Callie always leaves us with some wonderful words of wisdom. Can you please take us out with your
I will.
tip for the day?
Before I do that, Minhas, do you want to give us one more rundown of where we can find you in social media, any projects that you're working on, that kind of thing?
Yeah, you can find me on Minhas Morgul on all platforms, and it is spelled almost exactly how it is in the books, just with an H. Projects I'm working on, I'm actually working on a lot of more cosplays. I know I took a break for a while, and I'm mixing it up with the South Asian flair.
I love that. I love that so much, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And of course, I'm working on some chainmail to the Adar from Rings of Power, which is my biggest project right now. I think I'm also going to be working on one of the cultists from Rings of Power as well.
Yay! Yeah. Yay!
So those are my big cosplay projects. Thank you for asking.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm so excited for the future to see what.
To see Adar.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She's been working on this for a long time. I'm watching her on her lives, and she's just away with the working. One ring at a time.
Yeah.
Creating the Adar. So we are all excited to see that. Thank you so much once again for being our guest on our 20th episode. We did it. We made it. we're shooting for 100. We're going to get
Nice.
there eventually. So yeah, Kali.
All right. So this 5 little tips for how to celebrate a milestone if you're remote, like if you're not with the people that you are celebrating with. So the first one could be to give each other time off. Everyone likes a little time off, a little break. The second would be to schedule a virtual party. So kind of like we just did here. This was felt like a virtual party to me anyway. This was such a fun episode, guys. Tip number 3, set up a praise channel. So like in our Discord, we just have people always dropping in really positive messages and pumping each other up. And I think that's amazing. And I love that we do that. Love the community. Tip number 4, you could schedule a game night, which is something that we also do. We also watch movies together, and I guess we do a lot of celebrating together, which is pretty awesome. And tip number 5, you can send a gift or care package. If you can't be with the person, you can send them something to think of you.
Aw. Yeah, a
Oh.
gift. Here are some rings. They're not suspicious rings at all.
Yeah. I love giving gifts.
Okay, so, slow down, Anatar. Settle down there. All right, guys. Thank you once again for being a guest. Thank you, Kali, for being a great co-host as always, and the facilitator, the dope demonstrator, creator of the force we gave Darth Vader. We appreciate you so much. So we are out of here, episode 20. Looking forward to episode 21 and many, many more. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.